Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy Thanksgiving. I don't know about you, but I am in a festive mood. I got my spice cider here and I am ready for the holidays. But today we have a really fun show. We're going to be diving into a little deeper into our Halloween vid. So I'm going to bring Neil and Mo on. And hi, everybody.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hello.
So, should I be playing one of those cool Halloween vids? And I mean, I'd love to show the Creativity-Hive one, even though that's not the one you're going to deconstruct, right?
You can show all of them if you want, Miriam.
Yeah,
Whichever
go
one
ahead.
you want.
Okay, well, I won't show all of them. At least not. Maybe we'll intersperse them or something. We'll see.
That'd be
Sure,
fun.
yes,
But
yes.
I think that, yeah, we're going to show our. Oh, that's cool. Oh, Neil, you've got your
The
orange
red
on
light.
back there. That's great.
We do what we
Yeah,
can.
we do
Yes.
what we can. Yes,
So,
absolutely.
um, okay, so that was totally Mo's work. Awesome, awesome work, Mo. So where did you get all the assets that you used?
You create them.
You created them. You created them from scratch.
You have to create. It's either you create them by drawing them, or you create them by modeling them. So if you draw them out, it's flat 2D. So you get some that are 2D. And then if they're going to be 3D assets, they have to be done inside 3D software programs like either Cinema 4D or Blender or one of these.
Did you go into all those different programs?
No, I just go into Cinema 4D. I don't go into the other
Oh,
programs.
you went into Cinema 4D and wow. Okay, so
Well, the one that you showed,
uh-huh.
the only 3D assets there was the trees, as you
Mm-hmm.
can see, because they're not flat. And then it's got past. I think the end. It was the end where the hut. There was a hut, but the one that we're going to show is going to be that was completely 3D,
Okay,
99.9%. Yeah,
shall I go ahead and play that? And
yeah, sure. Yeah.
is that the number 4 vid?
No, it's the number one vid.
The number
Yes.
1 vid. Okay, got
Yes.
it. I have to we'll show it now.
Yeah, that's the one, the number one vid.
Okay, awesome. Take it away. What are you going to show us?
And I
Okay,
must
so
say, the first time Mo had this uploaded to our Lucid Link file space, and I took a look at it, I was just blown away. It's going, whoa, this is fun.
okay, so what we're gonna do? Let me just get to sharing my screen. Let's see. Yeah,
Okay.
okay, share screen. Yes, share screen. And yeah, let's share that screen. Cool. All right. Okay, cool. So let me just hide that and bring up After Effects. So essentially, this is what you're seeing in After Effects, and it looks very simple right now. If you're used to After Effects, or even if you don't, it looks very simple. But there's a ton of stuff that's going on in here. So I'm going to show you exactly what's going on in here so that you understand how things get created. So let me just very quickly get that out the way, and then let me just bring that up to full view. Let's make that fit. Okay, so if we look at the final video, right? So I'm just going to bring up that final video anyway, and we're going to kind of just run through this. seen at the time. Now, if we look at all of this, you can see it's not flat. This is not a drawing whatsoever. And you'll see that the ground, as you're moving past the ground, that's also not flat. And then the trees are not flat. So nothing really is flat here.
Mhm.
Everything has some dimensionality to it. So let's see how you get this dimensionality. I'm going to go into the scenes folder, and I'm going to go into, as you can see, if I open it up, you're going to see there's going to be a ton of stuff happening here that well, everything was collapsed at this point in time, and we didn't know what was happening. So if we look into this, let's just go into the 3D world. Okay, so I'm going to take you into the 3D world, and I'm going to scrub forward. You're not going to be able to see much here. As you can see,
I
you
don't see a
might be able,
thing.
well, I can see it, but this is a channel that's been used. But I'm gonna take you to the main 3D. This is the main scene that was done, right?
Okay.
This is done in Cinema 4D.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
Cinema 4D.
Cinema 4D. So we haven't touched Cinema 4D in any of the Maxon does Cinema 4D. So we did have guests from Maxon. But how this is created is, if we look into each of these are each of them elements, and how these elements are actually created. It's pretty easy to understand if you know what you're doing with the 3D stuff. So it starts with what is known as a nub. It's a nub. So you'll get a pretty
It's a
simple.
what? What did you
It's
say?
called a nub. NURB. Nub.
Okay, see,
Right.
that's a word I don't know.
Yeah. So a nub
Nerva.
is NURB. Nub or primitive.
NURB.
Yeah, nub or a primitive. It's called a primitive. So a primitive could be a cylinder. It could be the base shape of what you're trying to achieve.
Okay.
In this case, if we look carefully at the base shape is a cylinder. All right. This is just really a cylinder. It's nothing more than a cylinder, but it's been elongated to the point where it looks like a tree trunk. This is also a cylinder. As you can see, if I zoom in, look very closely, you can see these edges are not closed off onto the tree, but it's happening
Okay.
so fast. Can you see it's a cylinder, really?
But
Right?
right, from a distance, it looks perfectly like a tree.
Absolutely. So these are just kind of scattered. I wouldn't say randomly scattered, but there is a random factor in them, and these can be placed wherever you want them to be placed. The next thing we look at is, if we look at the house. Now the house is constructed from pretty much a rectangle. Okay, so each of these surfaces that you see here is an element. So this surface is a rectangle, and it's extruded out to give it an extruded shape. This is a rectangle, and all of these are created. Now, if you look at these things down here, these are little kind of, things that hold up like pillars.
Yep.
But they're very
Balustrades or
primitive.
whatever.
Yeah, they're balustrades, absolutely, but they're very primitive shapes. This is simply like a cylinder, and on the top is a disc, but it's extruded, and the parts are made into look like it's coming from a cathedral or balustrade. So the way it's designed is that you actually think that it is actually something that it's not. These, however, were not modeled in any way. I mean, these were assets that I got, and you can actually just get these assets online or whatever it is, and just put them in. So it's a lamp. It's a lamp. If we go further down,
I'm curious, where did you go to get,
you
an
can
app
go
that
to
was that?
you can go to GF. You can go to Turbo Squid. You can go to GFX Drug. You can go to. There's a lot of 3D asset places that you can get stuff that's pretty cool for free. And now that Adobe
Okay.
has Substance,
Oh,
even though
Substance?
Adobe Substance is like Cinema 4D, but it's actually, it was Blender originally, and it was Substance, and now it's been taken over by Adobe. And you get a ton of assets on the Adobe Exchange, which you can download and then bring it in. Very, very cool stuff. You can have trees, and you can have cars, and a lot of cool stuff. So as an example, let me just go in here. I'm just going to go into my browser, and I'll share that with you in a second. See, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So right? So free3d.com as an example, free3d.com. As you can see, look at these objects, right? These are all
Free3d.com, you said?
up here. Free 3D.
Free three. I'm gonna type it here so we can
Yeah,
all see it.
yeah, free3d.com is the URL, right? And you can see these are all three-dimensional assets that you can actually download. But if I go to something that's a little bit more advanced, which is Turbo Squid, like a squid that's really fast, Turbo Squid, right? This is proper professional models. Okay, so if I look at
Ooh.
these, if I go to this lion as an example, can you see it's been modeled completely, and some of them are animated as well. If I look at the details, you can see it's very, very complex. And look, it's not cheap. It's $1,099.
Wow.
All right, because it's a lot of work that goes into
Right.
this, a ton of work. So that's just a line. That's more expensive than most because it's got fur and animation on that fur. But if we take something like, let's look at, for example, a lamp, because we were talking about that lamp, right? Okay, so if we look at a lamp, something like, let me just do this rather. Let me just call it a street lamp. Yeah. Okay. So let's see what we see. Right. So if we go to something like maybe this guy, right? Okay. This whole thing is actually three-dimensionally. It's made. It's modeled. It's done to perfection. You can see all angles. You can see different tech. This is how it's
Awesome.
modeled. Can you see how it's modeled? So those are the tech. That's the text. That's the wireframe almost model of it. And this is how it looks in its kind of bare bone structure. But as we look into it, you'll see that each area is a surface. They are little things that make up this model, right? So, and then it's textured and then it's lit. So this is how it looks. See all these little kind of meshes? Those are polygons that are added together. And the more of them there are, the more you can bend the surface in a natural way. So we must do something in Cinema 4D. You must remind me, Maria, we must get into that for one of the shows. It's actually very interesting. Complex,
Yeah,
but it's very,
that might
very
be
cool.
fun. But okay, so this website though is not free.
Yeah, you can see like the stuff he's looking at right now. It's list a price down below there is $25.35.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
$25.35.
But
Look,
in
yeah.
the video that we did, you didn't need anything that detailed. It
No,
was
you don't need. It's
you
very
don't
fast.
you
So
just need
so
something that kind
yeah,
of gives the idea.
yeah, absolutely. You know, it's if you're doing it for feature film work or something. I mean, if you look at this from the Mandarin, you know, this is a great, lovely. It's a simple thing to model, very easy. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at how this was modeled, this is a cylinder. Really, it's a cylinder. It's a
Right.
ball. It could have started as a ball or a sphere. Okay, so when you look at, let me not say these things. Let me show you. Okay, so let me explain how this is done. We'll bring up Cinema 4D.
And while Mo's bringing that up, I'm going to mention something that I've heard several After Effects wizards point out, that choose where you put your fine detail in as a place that people are going to look, and realize that in many other places they don't look at the fine detail. Your time is wasted if you put fine detail in places people aren't going to be looking. And besides that, it actually tends to look more accurate and believable if you don't put in all the fine detail and the things people don't look at closely. And our brains fill in the detail, and so you allow people's brains to fill in that detail.
So, Miriam, you can see these on the right-hand side, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is known as, these are primitives.
Okay.
Right? So life
they're already
begins.
built into the program.
Yeah, they're built in. They're just built in. They're there. So as an
Mhm.
example, if we take a cylinder, all right, and let's see. I'm sorry, I'm just waiting for it to populate. Okay, so here's the cylinder right now, right? Very simple. Now, what I can do is I can, as you can see, this is a three-dimensional world, right?
Mhm.
So this is what the cylinder looks like, and that's all it is right now. It's nothing more than a cylinder. But let's just take away. I'm going to show you something. See what I can do? I can start to do things to the cylinder.
Ooh.
And this is the basis of beginning to model the cylinder. All right. So let's go in and do that. Right. And you can see these rotational segments on the top.
Uh-huh.
They don't look really round. So
No.
what I can do is I can change up the segments here. Look at this. If I change the segments, the more segments there are, the
Very
longer it's going to
cool.
take to render. But what we can do here, as an example, it's a hierarchical kind of structure in Cinema 4D. So if I go into the cylinder like this, and you'll see I've got something else that happens here. I've got this thing called, as an example, a bend or a twist, right? As an example. So I'm going to put this twist right here. And if I go to the twist and I do this, you'll see it's twisting, but it's doing nothing. Can you see? There's
Right.
nothing really going on. So let me just do that for you a little bit and just kind of do that. All right. So if I use the twist, you can see really nothing is going on because the twist doesn't know what it needs to twist. So you need to tell the twist that the parent of the twist is the cylinder up here. So we take this and we drag it down like so. All right. And now if we just watch that cylinder. Okay. So there's a lot you can do with this. There's a ton of stuff you can do with this. And then, of course, you get the material browser. So if we go to the material browser, what a material browser is if I happen to render this now, right? So if I try to render this, this is what you're going to see as the final product. And that's what it looks like in the final. But for now, we don't want to do that. We want to actually go in and we want to, let me just go in here and see if I can see where my assets are. Okay, so that's my mesh problem. Let's go back and go into Material Manager. Okay, so the Material Manager allows us to start to do things with materials. So we've got Material Manager and Material Editor. So the Material Editor, down here, this is what's known as essentially having no material on it. It's got no material, right? So
right.
we want to actually add a material on. So what exactly is a material? A material could be a color. It could be really anything that you want it to be.
A texture, I assume.
It can be a texture as well. Just give me a second. I just want to grab something from the back.
Now, I didn't want to get you too far down into Cinema 4D. This is fascinating, but anyway.
Well, yeah, I'm going to show you something really quickly, so then it won't take too long. Hopefully, yeah, should be fine. Okay, so let me just get out of this and just put this. I've got a lot of materials in this one. All right, so. Oh, I gotta sign in here. Yeah, I just gotta sign in.
We have had Max on, folks on. This is great.
Max on and Red Giant. It's awesome stuff.
Yeah, I just have to sign in off screen so people don't sign into my account accidentally.
Yeah.
Or non-accidentally.
Yeah.
Or non-accidentally, yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Guess I should put that up.
Okay, cool. All right. So this was the previous Cinema 4D version, Cinema 4D 24, and you can see it looks a lot different compared to 25. 25 is the latest version, which has changed the user interface completely, although there is a workspace which you could actually go to and say, okay, make it look like 24. So if I look at this, these primitives are sitting up here again, all right? So as an example, I can put in a plane. As you can see, there's a plane surface. Can you see this plane surface, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this could be the ground, essentially the ground, right? So I'll just make it really big. Now that ground is fine, but down here at the bottom, you can see I've got create a material, right? So I want to say create a new material. See this material? If I drag this material onto that, it's oh, yeah, okay, there you go. So now it becomes white. But this is a material editor. So if I double click it, I can choose a lot of stuff like the color. So I'm going to change the color to maybe a light kind of maybe brownish, yellowish brown, like brown color, almost like that. I can say it has luminance attached to it, so color and luminance. So I'm going to go to luminance, and you can see I got a lot of bright luminance happening here. So let's just go down and drop that luminance value down a little bit. I can say it's got an environment which I don't want now, and I don't want anything else on this at the moment. And if I then change that up, I'm just going to take luminance away for a second, so that we got reflections, and you can see immediately it attaches to that, and we've got that reflectance on that surface, right? So that's our very first surface, and we can move around it in the 3D world and look at what that is actually looking like. As you can see when I do this, can you see that reflectivity?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So when I
It's metallic.
when I render it, look how long it takes. It's starting to render. So this is how the final render would look. But this is just the beginning of all of this. But we'll take a primitive. Maybe we'll take a. Let's just take a. Let me think what carries. Okay. Again, we'll just take a sphere, right? So here's my sphere, and you can't see it because it's sitting under the world. There is a floor level. See that? It's a floor level. All right. So we can see that the segments are 16, so they really don't look like a circle. I'm going to then go in and create another material. So I'm going to just go. I can also say load materials. If I okay, let's just see. Let's just go into create, and we're going to go into materials. New material. Okay. We'll take this material, double click that, sorry, it's that one, and go in here, and I'm going to just change that color to like a kind of greenish color. So take away the reflections for now, and go in about here. All right, and put back reflections in. That's going to reflect. And I want to just put a little bit of a glow on top of this so that the other strings about that much. Okay, and don't worry about displacement and environment map up there. And we'll close it off. And I'm going to put that on here. All right, now if I go around the 3D world, as you can see, I've got a lot of stuff happening. So what I can then do, if I look at if I can find After Effects. Oops, did my After Effects just crash? I don't even know. Nope, that's not that. That's not that. I think no, that's Streamlabs. Okay, I need to open up After Effects again. So with After Effects, when I take you through, you'll understand this in a second. So what we could do is we want to be able to move through space and time. Right? So you can see that this object is sitting about here, all right? And I can bring that forward. I can go back into that object and kind of move it here. And then I'm going to create a different object, like maybe a pyramid. Okay, and if I go to the pyramid, and I can just kind of just take that away, and that's my pyramid. Let's just see where it is. Okay, so that's my pyramid, and I'm going to rotate around the world. But I can also go in and do this. So I can see from different angles where I am. Okay, this is the top view. So you're looking down at the cube. There is the plane. There is the pyramid. This is the floor view. This is the right-hand side view. Sorry, this is the front view. This is the right, and this is the view that we're at the moment. So I can see what is sitting behind one another like so, and I can easily manipulate stuff. So I'm going to go in here and kind of just move this across like that, and then bring it a little bit forward. I'll go to the pyramid and do that, and kind of move it back. Okay, and if I go back and I rotate around it so we can, obviously see this is what's happening. I'm just going to quickly create a new material and just do that. All right, and just go to the color, color black, take that away, and close it off. And I'm just going to drop this black onto the pyramid so we can see what's going on. If I render, this is how it's starting to look. Okay, we had a little glow here, and you can see in the back we've got that black pyramid. I'm just going to change that color a little bit, kind of make it about that. Okay, and then we're going to say again, we'll just put a little bit of a reflectance on it. Actually, we don't want reflectance. We just go into a bit of a glow and close it off. If I render out now, let's just put that back and look at it. So it takes a little bit longer to render now. So what's going to happen is, come on, no, don't do this to me. Okay. Okay, so that's the full render, right? Now, what I want to do here is I want to actually, if I go into, let's say if I render into active region view, let's take that away. Now, I want to be able to animate this, right? And there's two ways to animate this. You either animate it from here or inside Cinema 4D and take it out to After Effects, or you animate it inside After Effects with After Effects camera. If you want to actually animate it from here, we can add a camera, and it's a very different looking camera compared to After Effects. It's a really serious camera, as you can see. So I can do this, all right? I can do whatever I want with the camera, and there's a lot of functionality. Now, inside this, we have keyframes, just like in After Effects. So you can pan, you can dolly, you can track, you can do whatever you want. So what I can do here is when I move it, the X and Y coordinates are moving here. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to auto keyframe, which it's going to record live objects. And I'm just going to say auto keyframe. And I'm just going to move the camera from here to say about there. And then I'm just going to kind of move that around like so. So if I look at it, I'm going to be able to animate the camera from this keyframe here. This is the first keyframe. And then I'm going to kind of do that and just move that around a little bit and then pan around.
So in our sample video, is this what you did?
You have to do this, yes. You
did this for all those different elements.
Well, it was one camera movement.
It was one camera movement. Okay.
So the camera movement was very simple, right? The camera movement was from this point, okay,
right
here, right here, and it started there, and then it went down here to say here, and
you moved through the trees.
See, so I just
went. So you did you have like the house and the trees and the different things all there, and then you manipulated the camera? Okay.
Yes, you have to manipulate the camera in that way. What I'm going to show you in Premiere Pro, in After Effects, to make it more palatable so that people understand, I'm going to create a new composition, right? And I'm going to simplify 3D workflow for you here.
Okay.
With something else. So I'm just going to drop. Let me just make a new solid. Okay, and I'm just going to drop something in. Oops. Okay, and I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to go to that, and I'm going to find. See, this is a similar kind of 3D world, but this is just a little bit different. It makes things a lot easier for people to understand. And this is something that you can buy for After Effects as well. So I will use maybe, let me have a look, see. Okay, so you got this fresh food. I'll use food as an example. Oh, actually a Halloween pack. Yeah.
There we go.
Halloween, right?
We're in the Halloween mood.
Okay, so we've got
in the fall mood.
We are. So let's just take that away. Let's just go to this pumpkin. All right, so we've got this guy here that's just a little pumpkin, really, right? I'm going to click OK. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm just going to get that pumpkin on screen. Okay, now the pumpkin's sitting really still and doing nothing. But if I create a camera here, which we did earlier in Cinema 4D, I'm just going to create a normal, say, 35 mil camera, and I'm just going to enable depth of field. Cool. All right, so now I have a camera. You can't see the camera, but it is there. However, if I change the number of views, if I need, to 2 views as an example, here is now the camera, as you can see. This is the camera,
Right.
So I can move it around. Can you see what's happening when I'm moving that camera around? It's changing how we go into space. So let's set it right back. So I'm going to go back into just one view, and I've got the camera happening, and I'm going to press the letter C, which is a shortcut for, with the camera. So I want to kind of just fly through this scene with the camera. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to just animate some stuff here real quick without explaining too much. And I'm just going to go in like that. And then I'm just going to bring that down a little bit. And I'm going to go backwards a little bit. And then I'm going to bring this down again. And then I'm going to kind of rotate around. Okay, I'm just going to rotate. Sorry, I did that. Let's rotate around this guy, like so. So if I look at this movement now, this is how it's going to render. And it takes a while to render, but this is the motion that's going on. So that's a virtual camera flying through space, essentially.
I see how you get lost in this stuff, Mo. This is so much
Yeah,
fun.
it's a lot of fun. But it's a lot of
track
work
of
at the
time.
same time. Yeah, you lose track of time completely. So we don't have too much of time, but let me
Right.
see. Let me get back to the project. So that's the project. Let me bring that back in. Let's put that up here. All right, cool. Back to where we were. All right, so let's look at the all the 3-dimensional objects that we created now. So if I look at the first one, you can't see much, and I'll explain to you in a bit why. But it's the entire scene, but it's actually the ambient map. It's called an ambient map.
Oh,
right?
I see. Yeah.
Right. So you can see the little lights and twinkles, and there's the end scene where the pumpkin drops in. The next is this is again another map. It's a lighting map. So as you can see, it's just the lighting for that scene. Nothing more. It's as we go past that scene, it's the light that we want. Next, if we look at the next one, we looked at that light, and then now we've got the light for the edge forest. So each one is separated, completely separated. If we go to the next one, we go in here, and that's the pumpkin at the end, as you can see. Now, if you look at the pumpkin, you don't see this movement too much, but it's really 3-dimensional. These are just simply created out. And then it's got a deformer added to it. See this? That it's doing this kind of weird thing. It's deforming. So in Cinema 4D, you've got these deformers, like we added the bend, but you get these certain sorts of deformers that we can use to give us certain effects. This is the bats. Neil, these are the bats. They all are white, and they all are an alpha channel. So what does an alpha channel mean? An alpha channel is like this white thing that you see that we saw originally. It's it's devoid of any color information, so that you can use it as a map. So you can map anything to those, so which we added on a texture, which was a black texture. If I look next, this is just, what is this? Yeah, okay, that's the main scene. And then without going to, and that's again, see the gate? The gate was created like this in Cinema 4D. It's a map. And then we mapped a texture onto this to give it that grungy look. So it doesn't come set with any sort of texture on it. And then I want to just go into really the main one. This is the main scene. And as you can see, everything is non-color. The reason for this non-color is the fact that you can now add color values to it with these maps. So this little this scene where you got these little beautiful little twinkles and lights,
Mm-hmm.
that gets added on as a track matte, which is a bit complex to understand, but it uses the alpha channel. The value of this black gets attached to wherever it sees the white. That's what is really happening here, right? And then we go in, and as you can see, there's your little guy, and that's the deformer, and that's how it looks. All right, so very, very simple. Well, not simple to do.
No.
It's not simple at
Look
all
at
to
all
do.
those layers.
Okay, so and then if you look at, for example, the texture map, the texture map is this, and it looks really weird, but this is the ground. This was added onto the ground as a texture, so
Okay.
that it looks like it's grass. It could be
Right.
anything. It could be cement texture, whatever. So there's a texture like we did in Cinema 4D where we created something, you added texture to it. I just added a color, but you can also add what is known as a texture map. So essentially the layers, are these are the layers that we're working with. But if I open up all the layers, there's a ton of stuff. As you can see in here, there's a lot of track mats. Now, track mats are very easy to understand if you know what they are. A track mat, to explain real quick, and I'll just show you an example of what a simple track mat is. I'll import a video, just a really quick video. Let's see. Okay, on the desktop, we'll import that Halloween stuff that we've done. All right, so finals. Okay, we'll import that video. Okay, I'm going to put the video up here and just scrub forward a little bit so we can see it, right? So this is the Halloween the kind of the whole scene. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to type in the word creativity, right? And I'm just going to scale it up. Sorry, just scale that up really nice and big. And I'm just going to go to view, and I'm going to show my layer controls. What I want to do is I want the scene to be shown inside the word creativity. So the order of the layers is very important. So what I'm going to do is see this little guy here, track matte. I'm going to say alpha matte Halloween, and bang, you should be able to see it inside. Let me just see if I change that. Go back. Let's go back into this. Okay, let me just go back again. Yeah, cool. So now you can see the whole thing is playing inside it. So what a track matte does, the layer that's on the top, okay,
Mm-hmm.
which is the word creativity in this case, allows anything below it, what the layer beneath the layer above it, is the one at the top is dependent on the one on the bottom to show what's at the bottom layer. So whatever's on the top takes the bottom part of it away and only shows you the pieces where the word creativity is. If that layer at the bottom, okay, let's just take away that track map real quick. Let's say it was here as an example, right? And I'm gonna do that track mat again. Now you'll see you can't see anything, but the moment I push that up, see,
Mm-hmm.
the word, the layer above it allows you to make what's beneath it visible, but only where it is showing.
Yeah.
That is what a track mat
Cool.
is, right? And you can use it in a variety of different ways. This is really cool stuff that you can do with it. So let's just go back to that. So there's a lot of track mats that are happening here. If I go into the compose, and there's no scripting, but there's a lot of luma values and alpha values attached. So easy to understand the principle. If we look at how we're going through this entire, and here's an alpha mat. So again, do you remember the texture that we put? It looked
Yes.
like grass. The texture gets attached here to this alpha. That's what it's here to add texture when you're going through it. But it happens so fast that you don't think it's a static image. Really, really easy to understand. Guys that have been doing this for a while will understand this kind of stuff. So the texture gets added at the bottom. And if I go back into the final comp, the texture is sitting at the bottom. All here. It's just sitting at the bottom. But you cannot see it. Right here, you'll be able to see a little bit of it. And if I take that exposure up a little bit, see that texture?
Oh, yeah.
It's a bumpy texture that's based completely and utterly on this texture,
Right.
right? So there's a lot that goes into this. So that entire texture is sitting there. And once you do that, and then you add all of the different, these are all rendered out of Cinema 4D, like the bats and all of these things. As you can see, we'll go back to the bats, and here are the bats. All right, but in the final, the bats look a little bit different because we've added a texture to it. This is just an alpha channel.
Yeah,
So
I'm going, they don't look like bats to me.
they don't look at all like bats, but again, it happens so quickly that you don't really know what's going on. So it's all about kind of,
Right, of
as you
course.
can see,
Now
yeah.
and
So
there, because your brain
yeah,
makes it into what you think it is. Oh, there's bats flying through the air.
yeah, and what sells it is actually what Neil's going to do is the
Y-
sound. I
Okay,
mean, if
we
you
should
had a
do
cat,
that.
if you had a dog barking, you wouldn't say these were bats. I mean, you had to have the sound of bat wings. So once again, if we look at that and we go back into bats, that's what your bats are. And then your bats have the channels, the alpha channel, and then the textures attached to them. So this sort of workflow is used in high visual effects projects for feature films and things that you see, Marvel, and it's just a standardized workflow, really, nothing too complex. It's not particles in simulations, and it might look really complex to a lot of people who are not used to it, but the moment you get used to it, it pretty much follows the same process again and again and again. But inside Cinema 4D or Blender or any of these 3D um, pieces of software, it actually, there is no roof limit to what you can do. So it's a lot of fun to create. The text is very, very simple. That's nothing to do with Cinema 4D or anything. It comes in here, and of course you got a virtual camera coming through here. Now, if I look here, can you see I've got a camera here, which I've
Hmm.
locked? It's locked. If I go to the camera, right, and if I go to, as an example, let me go to a piece of the scene here. And if I go to this camera, what should happen when I move the camera? Okay, I'm going to try and move the camera and see what happens. And you can see the camera is not changing much at this point because the camera came in from Cinema 4D. So you can see that there's nothing in here for camera controls beside these. But as you can see, if I look at the camera and I hit the letter U, can you see this letter U? That camera has all these keyframes attached to it. All of this is position, orientation, and zoom. So if I take away all of those keyframes, so we've got no camera movement, it's completely kind of static. It's going to be all over the show, really. And if I start to change stuff around, the camera is not touching the scene. The camera is touching a part of the scene, right? So I'm going to just undo that and get all the keyframes back. The camera, did you see what appeared and what disappeared when I took the camera away? If I take the camera away, the camera is playing with the text because it's inside After Effects. So what the camera is doing is it's following the Cinema 4D camera, but the text is made inside After Effects. So if I go to the camera, say where there's text, and if I do this, look at what happens now. Look what it's affecting
Oh,
that,
yeah.
right? Because it's dangerous to have the camera affect the Cinema 4D, because if you play around with the camera, then you can have an issue. So if I could say at this point, let's bring the camera in and let's make the text kind of stay there. As you can see, look what's happening. See, there's a motion blur attached to it. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this one. The other one that was done, which is the one with the snake, was even more stuff that's going on. That's a bit crazy. So we should look at doing something where we do a simple project with Cinema 4D and After Effects, to get guys into the world of Cinema 4D
I
or
think
3D.
that sounds like a class to me, honestly. I can see a lot of people getting lost trying to
Yes.
recreate this. And
Yes, it's a lot
so,
of work.
hey, we can
So-
help you with that. Just visit Creativity-Hive's website, and we'll talk about what you want to learn. So, are we going to get into sound now?
We are going to get into sound. I don't know how to stop sharing, but I can try.
Oh, I can stop. I can just remove
Yeah,
it.
sure. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Okay, so when Mo sent me that video, which I was just looking at, and I was just going, "Wow, it's okay." So it's what, about 23 seconds, but it was really awesome. And so the first thing, as far as for sound, is I thought this one really needed a soundtrack, and so I will go ahead and start sharing my screen.
Okay.
And
add it to screen. There we go.
So, oops, you're showing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sharing Mo's.
Oops,
How about yours?
So here we are in, I built a custom workspace in Premiere for audio. And so I wanted to get some music. And so I went over here to the Essential Sound panel in the audio thing and just typed in Halloween in the search. Now this is under the Browse Essential Sound panel, the Browse tab, and Adobe Stock. I typed in Halloween. And then in moods, I just clicked on scary and mysterious, and then just went ahead and started listening to whatever popped up. And you get down here at the bottom. Let me minimize that. And so I just listened through. You can just click on one of these and it'll play. And I went through a whole bunch of them until I got down to one that's down a little farther, called One Step. And it had kind of a Hogwarts type feel. And so I'll just go ahead and play my system. Let's see if this is coming out when I play this.
It is.
Very quietly.
So there was one problem with this. I was playing a little quiet. Huh? Okay, well, I was trying to fix something, and we'll bring that back up to everything else. And this is a piece of music that runs quite a bit too long. And so I went into it and found a place where it shifted, like right here. And the original goes into something else at that point. But I looked at in the source monitor, you can see, let me bring source monitor over here, and I'll bring up One Step. Now in the source monitor here, you can see that when we play this, plenty loud there, I think.
Yeah,
and
that works.
And this is the first section here. I noted that over here at the end they have this quieter section, so I came over to here, and they're playing the same scene, but they're playing it back with like woodwinds or something like that. And so what I ended up doing was, you can see in my timeline panel here, I made this cut right there and had to work this, just trim it back and forth to get that in. But I'm going to bring my sound down just a little bit in Premiere. So after getting that and getting it so it was trimmed to the right length of the clip, then of course you need to have some other sound. And so the rest of this are these other things down here. As you can see, I have A1, audio 1 is the sound track, the music track. And then I just have A2, A3, and A4 audio tracks 2, 3, and 4 for my ambient sounds. And so if we can come down and I'll just solo this track. And these sounds were just out of Adobe Sound Library. We'll get a link out to you. You can check on it. It's a massive free library of sounds. But I just did some shaping of it. And then I have one that's just some chains rattling. And then a squeaking gate. And a hiss. And, of course, a couple different... A gate again. But if you look at the tracks here, so if I can get these up a little bigger, you can see that there are a number of changes. It's called keyframing the volume. So we go back to the beginning here. I did the wrong thing here. Go back to the beginning and watch, listen to what happens here to the volume of this first clip.
You might want to pop up that volume in Premiere Pro.
Okay, it's back down.
So we can hear it better.
Get down. Okay, we'll see if that works better. And so let's go back to the beginning here and I hope you were hearing that. But at any rate, these keyframes I just set on the clip itself. And that is a very fast way to work when you're just trying to trim in one little bit of sound. You notice I brought the sound down at the beginning and up there in order to shape it for where I wanted it, and then brought it down quickly. This little bit here, you barely notice it, but in order to get that to come in and fade out, I had to do this really steep little bit of keyframing. This next bit, again, the same thing. And then worrying about the fade over time for that part. And then tapering that off as it's going. And the same thing over here. Now, the thump, you know, when
the pumpkin lands, right?
Right. That thump right there. Let's mute the sound, the tracking. Okay, that is these two bits down here, and it's pretty much the same thing. One of them is just set for treble. The other one is set for bass because I wanted more bass thump to it, and that's what that is. And then we have, let's see, let's.
I can tell you're an audiophile, Neil. Some people would go, treble, bass, really?
And those last things were just these three down here at the bottom. And so with these things, you can do a lot of quick changes by grabbing and setting keyframes on your audio track here. But there's other things that once you get the clip set in, then you start listening to the whole thing and wanting to adjust things a little differently. And of course, at that point, the track mixer, and that's this panel up here, and enlarging it so you can see it maybe a little better. I don't know if that made it any better, actually. But at this panel up here, where you have volume controls, and you note these are set in various places. This is audio 1. This is A1, A2, A3, 4, and submix 1. I do have a submix, which I didn't end up doing that much with, although a lot of times you can do a great bit of shaping with submix. You can have, like, say, your music goes into one submix. You can have 3 dialogues that go into a different submix, and you can apply things to them, because with the track mixers, you can come up here and you can apply effects. Like on, I have just the on A1, which is the music. The only effect I applied to that was bass, and I turned up the lower frequencies on it a little bit. Now, A4 over here, which is this one down here with the real thump. In order to get that thump, I made a number of changes. Added dynamics processing, a hard limiter because I was doing a lot of pumping up the volume of that one, a pitch shifter to drop it as low as possible, and again, bass to boost the bass even further, and then a parametric EQ. And you can see the way I've shaped this again to emphasize the bass part. And it's in the mix of those kinds of things that you can start really shaping things. And the last thing I'll just mention here is, let's go ahead and I'll play this track again, where all we're looking at is the track mixer, and watch the way some of these will start moving as we play. Well, actually, I thought I did more movement of those. On this one, I didn't do that much of the main volume with the track mixer. I'm sorry. It was the Halloween 4 one that I did a lot of shaping with the track mixer. But these are the kind of things that you go in and you set and you play one sound against another. I went into the sound library and was just hunting for various things to go through and to put in and add. But Mo's right. When you get in here, you're coming in and you get these various things, like coming up here on this gate, and those things flying through the air with that screech of the gate. And this is a Halloween thing. You think these shapes up here are bats?
Yeah, the sound makes so much difference.
Yes. And then it just in timing things, like when I was first setting this scream that comes in as this turns, I set it so the scream started right as it finished the turn, and that wasn't the right feel. The scream had to start before this actually came in. So you're just barely seeing this now. It's not there yet, and the scream had to start there and be full before it came in. Okay. It's timing all those various elements that gets to be the fun part.
Well, should I go ahead and play the finished thing again? I think that would be a good thing.
Sure.
To have that back to where it is. Okay, that's Halloween 4.
No, Halloween 1.
Halloween 1. Oh, I love the little ending, the little thump at the ending. Good job, guys. This is so much fun. I was telling Neil and Mo that I really thought this is a really marketable product that you had created, that people would be willing to buy these that don't want to go from scratch. And so, people should be creating some assets for people to use on social media that with minor little changes to customize. I think it's a great plan.
Yeah, you get guys that even on Adobe's stock side. I mean, they create stuff and they sell it, and they create things that whether it's stills or moving effect stuff, they actually sell it. The thing is, they kind of make it almost a living doing that sort of stuff. It's like selling your scripts on A scripts. It's you have
Right.
marketplaces and so forth. However, what I'd like to do is, if Miriam, if I could share my screen,
Okay, we have been going for an hour, so
it would be like maybe
so a little
five
quick.
minutes,
Okay.
just so we leave people with something to remember. I think
Okay, sounds good.
so. In After Effects, I'm just going to create a really quick new composition, right? So let me just see if so make it a 1080, right? That's fine. And then I'm going to create a new solid. I'll just put that in, and that's just going to be that. And just want to go back in here and enable the effects and presets really quickly. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here, and this, for people that don't want to possibly get into things like cinema 4D and very complex stuff, they can get the only kind of I would call it three-dimensional or 3D workspace inside After Effects, which is this plugin. So they can do that if they want. So if I go back to Halloween and I go to this floor model, right? So it's just like a grass. It looks like texture, but it's just a kind of grassy knoll, I would say. All right. So that's all we have for now here, right? And that's how it looks. Now, if I click OK, this is what we have. But of course, we don't have a camera just yet. So I'm going to just put in a camera just to show people that it's actually pretty simple. You don't have to really concern yourself with too much of stuff. Okay, so let's just go back in here. Let's check those adaptive previews off. Let's see if I can go there. Let's go back in here. Okay. All right, so as you can see, the camera is kind of affecting this. I have to do it slowly because the camera is so quick. And I'm gonna kind of just do that. And then I'm going to go back into this, and I'm going to make it really, really big. So I'm going to go to the world transform here, and I'm just going to bring up the world scale, and I'm going to make this kind of really big. So we've got this thing going on. So let's just make it 2 right there. And then I'm going to come back to the camera, and let's look at where we are. So we at this kind of almost grassroots level, you could call it. But what we want to do is we actually would like to be able to fly through this. So we want to kind of creep along the ground with the camera. That's the object of what we want to do, right? So let's just do that. As you can see, when you're working with camera in 3D in After Effects, you have to be very, very careful. All right, so we're going to animate. Very simple thing, the camera movement for now. We're going to go in here, and then we're just going to go into the scene. As you can see, it's tremendously intensive on your processor and RAM and all these sorts of things. Okay. Down a little bit. Okay. So if I look at this, and let's just see how it renders. As you can see the render time. Just stop the render and just bring it up full screen. As you can see, this is what takes a lot of time because you're busy rendering, and you can see it's frame by frame by frame. But now you've got this virtual camera that's moving along the ground, and you could have maybe in the background you could have a cemetery as an example, right? So if we had to go in again, I'm not going to take a lot of time, but I'm just going to type in the word cemetery. Okay, say that. All right. So we'll just go into maybe something like this. cool. So I'm just going to save that to the desktop, and I'm going to import that in. Let's see where it is. Okay. Get out of the way. Let's bring that into the project. Put that in here. Okay, so we have nothing on the top edge of the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the back, right in the back. So I'm going to scale it up quite nice and big, like so. Okay, and I'm going to go put it in the back, but I'm going to put it behind this. So now you'll start to see stuff happening a little bit, as you can see. And then naturally, what I'm going to do there is, if I look at what's going to happen here, look at this, Maria, immediately changes everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we haven't even begun to, but now you're seeing a real-time preview. But you actually, so to give it a little bit more dimension and believability, I'm just going to put in a Gaussian blur onto this layer, right? And I'm just going to push that up a little bit so that we got a little bit of blur, so it kind of almost, it becomes believable. And of course, with Gaussian blur, again, you're going to have render time issues. But as you can see, it's like you moving backwards from the cemetery over a hill, okay? And you don't see the beauty in it right now until it's fully rendered. And the background is remaining there. We can animate the background to actually move towards us or back. So there's that parallax depth of field effect. I haven't even set the focal length of the camera so that things closer become more blurry and further away get, or vice versa. But if we look at how this is starting to look, you would not say, and we're just waiting for it to kind of just get to the final point of the movement. And then it'll just quickly loop. So we'll see what the final actually kind of looks like. And most people that don't know After Effects don't realize this is the sort of time you have to use. You wait for a long time to render stuff. And Cinema 4D is just as bad, but they've got Redshift now, which is a render engine on its own. So looking at this,
a fast computer, I imagine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got 12 cores, you got 128 gigs of RAM, and it's still doing this. So
right.
Yeah, so
that
you can
helps.
imagine.
Even then, you're going to be sitting there tapping your fingers and waiting.
Absolutely. So if we look at this, let's just go back. All right, here's the full render.
Cool.
And of course, like I said, in the background, we could do some sort of animation. We can have a zombie hand appear, or whatever it is appear. And those are the kinds of things to teach people how to do this really quickly and easily, so that they can start beginning to delve into the higher end stuff. And I'll leave you on a final note. Just that little render, right? Just that little render cost me 7.1 gigs of cache data on my hard drive. So it should, things like this, they take up 40 to 60 gigs. So we should do something to show people how to work with stuff like this. But it's been fun.
Awesome. That would be great. So go to the Creativity-Hive website, and if you're interested in learning more, we'd love to talk to you. Or you can send a message. Comment below and we'll get in touch with you. So happy Thanksgiving, everyone. It has been great. Have a great time with family, and remember to be thankful.
And happy Halloween, of course.
Bye-bye.
Bye.